Chandragupta Maurya, 350 to 295 BCE, was the founder of the Maurya Empire, which ruled over a geographically extensive empire based in Magadha. He reigned from 320 BCE to 298 BCE. The Magadha kingdom expanded to become an empire that reached its peak under the reign of his grandson, Ashoka the Great, from 268 BCE to 231 BCE. The nature of the political formation that existed in Chandragupta's time is not certain. The Mauryan Empire was a loose-knit one with large autonomous regions within its limits. Prior to his consolidation of power, Alexander the Great had invaded the northwest Indian subcontinent before abandoning his campaign in 324 BCE due to a mutiny caused by the prospect of facing another large empire, presumably the Nanda Empire. Chandragupta defeated and conquered both the Nanda Empire centered in Pataliputra, Magadha, and the Greek satraps that were appointed or formed from Alexander's empire in South Asia. Afterwards, Chandragupta expanded and secured his western border, where he was confronted by Seleucus I Nicator in the Seleucid-Mauryan War. After 2 years of war, Chandragupta was considered to have gained the upper hand in the conflict and annexed satrapies up to the Hindu Kush. Instead of prolonging the war, both parties settled on a marriage treaty. Chandragupta's empire extended throughout most of South Asia, spanning from modern-day Bengal to Afghanistan across North India as well as making inroads into Central and South India. In contrast to the Jain legends which developed 900 years later, contemporary Greek evidence states that Chandragupta did not give up performing the rites of sacrificing animals associated with Vedic Brahminism. He delighted in hunting and otherwise leading a life remote from the Jain practice of ahimsa or non-violence towards living beings. Chandragupta's reign, and the Maurya Empire, set an era of economic prosperity, reforms, infrastructure expansions, and tolerance. Many religions thrived within his realms and his descendants' empire. Buddhism, Jainism and Ajivika gained prominence alongside Vedic and Brahmanistic traditions, and minority religions such as Zoroastrianism and the Greek pantheon were respected. A memorial for Chandragupta Maurya exists on the Chandragiri hill along with a 7th century hagiographic inscription. Historical sources. Chandragupta's life and accomplishments are described in ancient and historical Greek, Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain texts, but they significantly vary in detail. Chandragupta was born about 340 BC and died at about 295 BC. His main biographical sources in chronological order are Greek and Roman sources, which are the oldest surviving records that mention Chandragupta. These include works written by Megasthenes, who was a contemporary of Chandragupta, and others by Nearchus, Onesicritus, Aristobulus of Cassandria, Strabo, Diodorus, Arrian, Pliny the Elder, Plutarch, and Justin. Hindu texts such as the Puranas and Athashastra, later composed Hindu sources include legends in Vishakhadatta's Mudrarakshasa, Somadeva's Kathasaritsagar and Kshemendra's Brihad Kathamanjari. Buddhist sources are those dated in 4th century or after, including the Sri Lanka Pali texts Dipavamsa, Rajavansa section, Mahavansa, Mahavansa Tikka and Mahabodhivansa. 7th to 10th century Jain inscriptions at Shravanabelgola. These are disputed by scholars as well as the Swetambara Jain tradition. The second Digambara text interpreted to be mentioning the Maurya emperor is dated to about the 10th century such as in the Bhatkathakosa of Harizana, Jain monk, while the complete Jain legend about Chandragupta is found in the 12th century Parasistaparvan by Hemachandra. The Greek and Roman texts do not mention Chandragupta directly, except for a 2nd century text written by the Roman historian Justin. They predominantly mention the last Nanda emperor, who usurped the throne of the king before him. Justin states that Chandragupta was of humble origin, and includes stories of miraculous legends associated with him, such as a wild elephant appearing and submitting itself to him as a ride to him before a battle. Justin's text notes that Chandragupta and Chanakya defeated and removed Nanda from his throne. Megasthenes' account, as it has survived in Greek texts that quote him, states that Alexander the Great and Chandragupta met, which, if true, would mean his rule started before 321 BCE. He is described as a great king, but not as great in power and influence as Porus in northwestern India or Agrams, Dana Nanda, in eastern India. As Alexander did not cross the Beas River, Chandragupta's territory probably included the Punjab region. The pre-4th century Hindu Puranic texts mostly mirror the Greek sources. These texts do not discuss the details of Chandragupta's ancestry, but rather cover the ancestry of the last Nanda king. The Nanda king is described to be cruel, against dharma and shastras, and born out of an illicit relationship followed by a coup. The Chanakya's Arthasastra refers to the Nanda rule as against the spiritual, cultural, and military interests of the country, a period where intrigue and vice multiplied. Chanakya states that Chandragupta returned dharma, nurtured diversity of views, and ruled virtuously that kindled love among the subjects for his rule. Buddhist texts such as Mahavansa describe Chandragupta to be of Kshatriya origin. These sources, written about 7 centuries after his dynasty ended, state that both Chandragupta and his grandson Ashoka, a patron of Buddhism, were Mauryas, a branch of Gautam Buddha's Shakya noble family. These Buddhist sources attempt to link the dynasty of their patron Ashoka directly to the Buddha. The sources claim that the family branched off to escape persecution from a king of Koshala, and Chandragupta's ancestors moved into a secluded Himalayan kingdom known for its peacocks. The Buddhist sources explain the epithet Maurya comes from these peacocks, or Mora in Pali, Sanskrit, Mayura. The Buddhist texts are inconsistent. Some offer other legends to explain his epithet. For example, they mention a city named Maurya Nagara, where all buildings were made of bricks colored like the peacock's neck. The Mahabodhi Vasa states he hailed from Maurya Nagara, while the Digha Nikai states he came from the Maurya clan of Pipalivana. The Buddhist sources also mention that Brahman Chanakya was his counselor and with whose support Chandragupta became the king at Patliputra. He has also been variously identified with Shashigupta, which has same etymology as of Chandragupta, of Paropamisiddhi on the account of same life events. The 12th century Digambara text Parashishtaparvan by Hemachandra is the main and earliest Jain source of the complete legend of Chandragupta. It was written nearly 1400 years after Chandragupta's death. Canto 8, verses 170 to 469, describes the legend of Chandragupta and Chanakya's influence on him. Other Digambara Jain sources state he moved to Karnataka after renouncing his kingdom and performed Salekhana, the Jain religious ritual of peacefully welcoming death by fasting. The earliest mention of Chandragupta's ritual death is found in Harisana's Bratkatha Kosa, a Sanskrit text of stories about Digambara Jains. The Bratkatha Kosa describes the legend of Bhadrabahu and mentions Chandragupta in its 131st story. However, the story makes no mention of the Maurya Empire, and mentions that his disciple Chandragupta lived in and migrated from Ujjain, a kingdom, northwest Madhya Pradesh, about 1,000 kilometers west of the Magadha and Patliputra, central Bihar. This has led to the proposal that Harisana's Chandragupta may be a later era, different person. Date. None of the ancient texts mention when Chandragupta was born. Plutarch claims that he was a young man when he met Alexander III during the latter's invasion of India, c. 326 to 325 BCE. Assuming the Plutarch account is true, Raichaudhuri proposed in 1923 that Chandragupta may have been born after 350 BCE. According to other Greco-Roman texts, Chandragupta attacked the Greek Indian governors after Alexander's death, c. 323 BCE, with Seleucus I Nicator entering into a treaty with Chandragupta years later. Seleucus Nicator, under this treaty, gave up Arachosia, Kandahar, Gedrusia, Makran, and Paropamisiddhi, Kabul, to Chandragupta, in exchange for 500 war elephants. The texts do not include the start or end year of Chandragupta's reign. According to some Hindu and Buddhist texts, Chandragupta ruled for 24 years. The Buddhist sources state Chandragupta Maurya ruled 162 years after the death of the Buddha. However, the Buddha's birth and death vary by source, and all these lead to a chronology that is significantly different from the Greco-Roman records. Similarly, Jain sources give different gaps between Mahavira's death and his accession. As with the Buddha's death, the date of Mahavira's death itself is also a matter of debate, and the inconsistencies and lack of unanimity among the Jain authors cast doubt on Jain sources. This Digambara Jain chronology, also, is not reconcilable with the chronology implied in other Indian and non-Indian sources. Historians such as Irfan Habib and Vivekanand Jha assign Chandragupta's reign to c. 322–98 BCE. Upinder Singh dates his rule from 324 or 321 BCE to 297 BCE. Christy Wiley states he reigned between 320 and 293 BCE. Early life. One medieval commentator states Chandragupta to be the son of one of the Nanda's wives with the name Mura. Other sources describe Mura as a concubine of the king. Another Sanskrit dramatic text Mudrarakshasa uses the terms Vrishala and Kulahina, meaning not descending from a recognized clan or family, to describe Chandragupta. The word Vrishala has two meanings. One is the son of a Shudra, the other means the best of kings. A later commentator used the former interpretation to posit that Chandragupta had a Shudra background. However, historian Radha Kumud Mukherjee opposed this theory, and stated that the word should be interpreted as the best of kings. The same drama also refers to Chandragupta as someone of humble origin, like Justin. According to the 11th century texts of the Kashmiri Hindu tradition, Kathasarit and Brihat Katha Manjari, the Nanda lineage was very short. Chandragupta was a son of Purva Nanda, the older Nanda based in Ayodhya. The common theme in the Hindu sources is that Chandragupta came from a humble background, and with Chanakya, he emerged as a dharmic king loved by his subjects. According to the Digambara legend by Hemachandra, Chanakya was a Jain layperson and a Brahmin. When Chanakya was born, Jain monks prophesied that Chanakya will one day grow up to help make someone an emperor and will be the power behind the throne. Chanakya believed in the prophecy and fulfilled it by agreeing to help the daughter of a peacock breeding community chief deliver a baby boy. In exchange, he asked the mother to give up the boy and let him adopt him at a later date. The Jain Brahmin then went about making money through magic, and returned later to claim young Chandragupta, whom he taught and trained. Together, they recruited soldiers and attacked the Nanda Empire. Eventually, they won and proclaimed Patliputra as their capital.